So this week, the actor Jussie Smollett's trial begins with jury selection. He's accused of staging a hate crime attack against himself in 2019 that captivated the nation. He faces 6 counts of disorderly conduct and of making a false report to police. Joining us now is Bernarda Villalona. She is a criminal defense attorney and former homicide prosecutor. Thank you for joining us to talk about this case.
Thank you for having me.
So 3 years later, we've been through a pandemic. This case is finally going to trial. This really became a culture war flashpoint because it all happened against the backdrop of a racial reckoning in this country, right? The police chief at one point said Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his own career and in the process dragged Chicago's reputation through the mud. Why is this case so significant and why did it captivate the nation the way it did?
So when it first happened, it happened in January of 2019. There was just so much politics going on around it. Remember who was the president at that time, that being Trump. So in terms of the allegations, what Jussie Smollett was alleging is that on January 29, 2019, around 2 a.m., as he was walking the subways, that 2 men allegedly jumped him and placed a noose around him, but also called him effing and called him gay, and also said that this was MAGA. So it took all the words, the key terms that have been so divisive in this country, have been so insulting, have been considered a hate crime. And at the time that it took place, and also the injuries that we appear to have seen on Jussie Smollett, it took the world by surprise. And let's not forget, remember, Jussie Smollett also went on Good Morning America and gave an interview, a highly emotional interview to Robin.
And ultimately, he could just get probation, right, for allegedly staging an attack on himself, filing a false police report. Why is this case even being pursued at this point? To what end? I mean, if he weren't famous, would this case have received the same amount of resources, given that this is in Chicago? There are hundreds of rape and murder cases in line at that very courthouse.
Exactly. You know, Chicago is known to be one of the bloodiest cities here in this country, and where you need to put those resources is on combating the violence, or solving the high rate of crime in terms of shootings as well as homicides. So in terms of Jussie Smollett, if he were a celebrity, let's think, would he even have been investigated him as a victim? And to begin with, but then taking a step further for it to have been investigated where he's being prosecuted not once, but this is the second time, because remember with the first prosecutor, the prosecutor for Cook County, it ultimately got resolved in terms of he did not take a criminal record. He agreed to pay like a $10,000 fine, but there was no acceptance of responsibility in the sense that he pled guilty. Then a judge appointed a special prosecutor, and that special prosecutor conducted his own investigation and determined that these reports were false. So why go through this when ultimately Jussie Smollett, he can just get probation, the same thing that he got with the first prosecutor with Kim Foxx. The whole question and answer to that is a question of deterrence. We want to deter this type of conduct. We want to let the nation know that, look, you can't be falsely reporting incidents like this because it takes away from the resources from other crimes, and also not even that, but it brings skepticism in terms of if someone else makes such a report, should we believe them? And you want to deter this type of conduct.
And we want to go back to that this whole circus really did become a crisis for Kim Foxx, the prosecutor, because her office dropped those charges pretty quietly. That led to outrage from the public, right? And then ultimately, as you mentioned, to the appointment of that special prosecutor. And then the judge reprimanded her, basically saying the entire office should have been recused because she had a conflict. So to you, does this look like misconduct or a cover-up, or is this just a media circus?
So I don't think it's misconduct. I don't think it's a cover-up. And the reason I can say that is because I was prosecutor for 16 years, 3 years in Philadelphia and 13 years in Brooklyn. So the program that was offered to Jussie Smollett is one that is common. Because Jussie Smollett does not have a criminal record and this is not a violent crime, he is eligible to receive probation. And the type of offer that was given to him was some accelerated rehabilitation program where he doesn't acknowledge guilt. However, he stays out of trouble, and then these charges disappear and he pays a $10,000 fine. So is that out of the norm when it comes to prosecuting any defendants? Not at all. Because in the end, we're going to end up with the same result in the sense of that he's going to end up with probation. I don't see a judge sentencing him, even though he has 6 counts on the indictment. He's eligible for probation on each of those counts. However, maximum 1 to 3 years on each count that can be consecutive. So we'll see how it's going to end up, but I don't think there was any prosecution misconduct. The type of program he was offered was one that a lot of district attorneys' offices have all around the country.
All right, well, we will see how this plays out. It will no doubt be in the spotlight. Bernarda, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.